Hollywood is built on reinvention. Every few years, it becomes something else. A superhero city wrapped in green screens and capes, a war zone recreated with smoke, sirens, and controlled chaos. A fantasy land where dragons fly, kingdoms fall, and heroes rise before the credits roll. Hollywood knows how to pretend better than anywhere else on Earth. It sells dreams by the frame, packages emotion, schedules magic. But there was one December when Hollywood didn't pretend. No cameras rolling, no scripts taped to the pavement, no premieres, red carpets, or velvet ropes holding people apart, no director calling action, just people. People who weren't performing, who weren't auditioning, who weren't chasing a moment that might change their lives. They were simply celebrating one. And for one night, the most famous boulevard in the world stopped selling dreams and started sharing one. The neon glare softened. The noise shifted. The street that usually demanded attention finally learned how to listen. Strangers slowed down. Tourists stopped filming and started feeling. A place built on illusion was filled with something real. Warmth, memory, belonging. This is the story of a Christmas Hollywood never planned for, never storyboarded, never budgeted. A Christmas that didn't arrive through studios or sponsors, but through community. Through songs remembered from childhood. Through food cooked the way it always had been. Through light carried by hand, not powered by spotlights. This is the story of the night Hollywood was transformed, not by fame, not by spectacle, but by the Filipino community that brought Christmas anyway. Los Angeles doesn't know winter. December arrives without ceremony. No frost on the windows. No breath turning visible in the air. Palm trees stay stubbornly green, unmoved by the season. The sun still sets gently, like it's any other month. And the air smells like traffic, hot asphalt, and takeout. Containers not pine, not smoke, not cold mornings. For most people here, Christmas feels optional. Something you schedule around work, something you decorate for, then pack away. A playlist, a mall trip, a weekend obligation. But for Filipinos living in Southern California, December is never quiet. It doesn't wait politely. It arrives early and loudly. It spills into daily life. Christmas begins before Halloween decorations are fully gone. Car radios switch playlists. Group chats wake up with plans. Church calendars fill weeks in advance. It's loud. It's early. It's emotional. Songs play on repeat, not just background noise, but memory. Lyrics learned before English ever felt natural. Melodies tied to grandparents, provinces, and childhood mornings. Families argue about food weeks ahead of time. Who's bringing the lechon? Who's in charge of dessert? Who made the best version last year, and who insists they'll do better this time? There's laughter in the arguments, and love beneath the chaos. And yet, something felt missing. That year, many Filipino families felt it at the same time. Not disappointment, but absence. They were celebrating, yes, but separately. In living rooms pushed to their limits. In church parking lots under fluorescent lights. In rented halls tucked far from the city's center. Christmas was happening in pieces, scattered, hidden. It existed, but it wasn't seen. Not by the city, not by the street that defined Los Angeles to the rest of the world. And for a community that carried Christmas so loudly in its heart, that quiet absence began to feel heavier than the noise ever could. The idea didn't come from an organizer. It didn't begin in a meeting room or on a polished proposal deck. There was no master plan, no official title, no one in charge. It came from a group chat, a chaotic, constantly buzzing thread filled with voice notes, screenshots, half-formed thoughts, and late-night messages. Nurses scrolling during short breaks between shifts, creatives sending ideas at 2 a.m., church volunteers replying with prayer emojis, food vendors chiming in with menus no one had asked for yet, students reacting with laughter, disbelief, and way too many exclamation points. Someone typed, almost jokingly, "Imagine Simbang Gabi, but on Hollywood Boulevard." The message sat there for a moment, unanswered. Dangerous. Then someone replied, "They'd never allow it." That should have been the end. A laugh, a reaction emoji, a quick return to reality. But Filipinos are dangerous when they laugh at an idea too long, because the laughter doesn't kill the thought, it feeds it. What started as a joke became a question, and the question became a possibility. What if? Within days, the tone of the chat shifted. Jokes turned into logistics, reactions turned into suggestions. Someone mentioned permits, someone else knew a choir director, another knew a food supplier, another said, "If this is real, I'm in." The idea took shape quietly, quickly. Not a parade, not a concert, no floats, no headliners. A night, just one night. One night where Christmas didn't stay tucked inside homes and churches. One night where it didn't apologize for being loud, early, or emotional. One night where Filipino joy didn't wait for permission and walked straight into the spotlight. Hollywood Boulevard doesn't close easily. It isn't just a street. It's a system, a maze of permits and regulations, layers of unions, contracts written to protect predictability and profit. Every square foot is measured, every hour accounted for. Businesses depend on foot traffic moving the way it always has, tour groups flowing in steady lines, performers knowing exactly where they're allowed to stand. Nothing unexpected, nothing unfamiliar, and this proposal was unfamiliar. Lanterns instead of professional light rigs, paper, bamboo, and soft color instead of LEDs, and spotlights, choirs instead of DJs, voices instead of bass drops, harmony instead of volume. Food stalls planned to sell dishes most officials couldn't pronounce, names that didn't fit neatly on permit forms, recipes that didn't come from franchises or chains. There were no celebrity guarantees, no fireworks budget, no brand activation strategy that made immediate sense. City officials hesitated. They reread the proposal more than once. They asked careful questions that sounded neutral but weren't. Business groups pushed back. They worried about disruption, about crowds that didn't move quickly, about people lingering too long without buying the right things. Some said, "Christmas events already exist." Others said, "This won't attract tourists." They spoke in numbers and projections, in foot traffic patterns and risk assessments, but what they really meant was simpler. We don't understand this. And when something can't be easily understood, it's often easier to keep it out than to make room for it. So the community stopped asking, they stopped waiting for approvals that never came, stopped refreshing inboxes, stopped explaining themselves. Instead, they started showing. Nothing big at first, nothing that could be shut down easily. A small choir gathered under streetlights just after midnight, their voices rising into the warm air when the boulevard had finally quieted. No stage, no microphones, just harmony floating between buildings. A pop-up food table appeared outside a theater, trays of rice and grilled pork offered to strangers who hadn't planned on staying out so late. People hesitated, then smiled, then sat down together on the curb. Lanterns were hung quietly along side streets. Not announcements, not decorations meant to impress. Just light. Phones came out. Someone filmed a few seconds. Someone else posted it without thinking. The videos spread. Not polished, not sponsored, no logos, no captions chasing. Trends. Just real. Nurses still in scrubs dancing after night shifts ended. Grandmothers patiently teaching children how to sing words they barely understood yet felt deeply. Tourists slowing their steps. Strangers stopping then staying. And Hollywood noticed something unusual. People weren't just watching. They weren't passing through. They were lingering. And in a place built for movement, for speed, for spectacle, That quiet refusal to leave said more than any headline ever could. The approval didn't come with enthusiasm. There were no congratulations, no excitement in the voices on the calls, no sense that anyone truly believed in it. It came with conditions. One night, limited hours, strict rules written in careful language, no amplification beyond certain decibel limits, no blocking emergency routes, no room for error, and no promises of support, no funding, no promotion, no safety net if things went wrong, just permission, a single, fragile yes that could easily be taken back. And that was enough, because Filipinos don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for ideal weather, full budgets, or enthusiastic approval. They don't wait until everything is lined up neatly. They make do. They adjust. They move forward together. They bring folding tables when stages aren't available. They bring voices when sound systems are limited. They bring food when there's nothing else to offer. They bring Christmas anyway. Not as a production, not as a performance, but as something carried, shared, and impossible to cancel. The street changed slowly then, all at once. At first it was almost unnoticeable. A few volunteers moving with purpose. A cord stretched here, a table placed there. Then the transformation accelerated. Lanterns rose between palm trees, their soft colors swaying gently in the evening air. Not harsh light, not blinding, just warmth, casting patterns that danced across concrete and glass. Food grills ignited along the sidewalks. Charcoal crackled. Oil hissed. The smell of garlic, vinegar, and smoke drifted outward, catching people before they ever saw the source. Voices tested microphones, but not with numbers or instructions. They laughed. They sang half lines. They called out to friends across the street. Tourists wandered in, confused at first. They slowed down. They turned their heads. They smelled garlic before they saw anything. They heard harmony echoing in spaces once filled only with engines and horns, where traffic used to surge forward without pause. By sunset, Hollywood was unrecognizable. The glare softened. The pace slowed. Not louder, warmer. And for the first time in a long while, the boulevard felt like a place meant for people to stay. There was no countdown, no announcement over speakers, no voice telling the crowd to get ready. Just a pause, the kind that doesn't feel planned, the kind that feels instinctive. Lights slowly dimmed along the boulevard. Neon signs softened. Conversations trailed off mid-sentence. And from the center of the street, a single voice began to sing. Not famous, not introduced, not amplified by anything more than the night air itself. Just clear. A Christmas song everyone knew, not because they had memorized the words, but because they had felt it before. For some, the lyrics were familiar. For others, the language wasn't. It didn't matter. The meaning traveled anyway. People stopped moving. Phones lowered, footsteps froze. Some cried without knowing why, surprised by the tears, embarrassed for a second, then letting them fall. Others reached out and held strangers' hands, not out of fear, but comfort. As if the moment asked for connection, and nothing else would do. For a brief, sacred pause, Hollywood forgot to perform. It forgot about angles and attention, forgot about spectacle and speed. It didn't try to impress, it just listened. And in that stillness, something rare happened. A place built on noise finally made room for feeling. Then joy returned, uncontrolled. Not scheduled, not directed, not contained by barriers or programs. It surged back into the street all at once. Dancing spilled into intersections where cars usually fought for space. Lines formed and dissolved and formed again. People pulled in by rhythm rather than instruction. Food passed freely between strangers. Plates handed off without names exchanged. Forks shared. Laughing apologies when sauces spilled onto sleeves. Kids ran through the crowd with lanterns bigger than themselves, their arms tired, but their smiles unstoppable. The lights bobbed and spun as they moved, small stars weaving through a sea of faces. Police smiled, not the tight, professional kind. Real ones, the kind that happen when resistance disappears. Businesses stayed open longer than planned, doors propped wide. Staff stepped outside just to watch for a while. No one checked the time. No one wanted the night to end. Not because it was spectacular, not because it was perfectly organized, but because it felt true. True in a way that didn't ask for validation. True in a way that reminded people what celebrations are supposed to be: shared, imperfect, and alive. Hollywood wasn't taken over. It wasn't conquered or claimed. No one pushed anyone out. It was invited in. Invited into a celebration that didn't demand understanding first, only openness. A celebration that didn't ask anyone to change who they were, what they believed, or how they celebrated. Only to join, to stand close, to listen, to eat, to feel. That night proved something simple and powerful. You don't lose yourself by sharing your culture. You don't dilute it by opening it to others. You strengthen it. You make room for others to feel at home too, even if just for a night, even if just on a street they thought they already knew. And sometimes the brightest Christmas lights aren't plugged into Hollywood power or powered by massive budgets and perfect planning. They're carried by people, by memory, by faith, by joy passed hand to hand, by those who refuse to celebrate quietly and in doing so, teach the world how to celebrate together. If this story felt familiar, it's because it isn't just about Hollywood. It's about every place where immigrants arrive carrying more than luggage, where they bring memories, songs, recipes, and traditions that refuse to stay hidden. It's about neighborhoods far from home where culture survives in kitchens, in churches, in late-night conversations, waiting for the courage to step outside. It's about the quiet moment when a community decides not to shrink, not to blend in silently, but to celebrate openly, to share what shaped them, to let others see it and feel it. Because belonging doesn't mean letting go of where you came from. Sometimes it means bringing it with you and trusting that there's space for it to grow. Maligayang Pasko, wherever you are.